Hello, and welcome to our live virtual design public hearing on the proposed Beachmont Connector project in Revere, located on State Road and Revere Beach Parkway between Donnelly Square and Eliot Circle. My name is Annie Audio. I am the project manager at the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division headquarters in Boston. Tonight's presentation will address the proposed multimodal accommodations along the north and southbound lanes on State Road and Revere Beach Parkway. The purpose of holding hearings is to provide an assured method whereby the Commonwealth of Massachusetts can furnish information to the public concerning the upcoming state's roadway construction projects and to afford interested residents in the project area an opportunity to be heard on the proposed project. At the same time, hearings afford the Commonwealth an additional opportunity to receive information from local sources, which would be of value to the state in making its final decisions on what design should be advanced for development. During this presentation, our panel will explain the purpose of this hearing, provide an overview of right-of-way procedures, present the project design, and then open up the meeting to city officials before we receive questions and comments from the audience. We will explain how to access closed captions on this presentation and how you can submit your written comments and questions on the project after tonight's presentation. Comments received within 10 business days after tonight's hearing will be included in the official hearing transcript. A complete copy of the transcript will then be posted online at both MassDOT's and the City of Revere's websites. I will now introduce Miranda Rosagno and Joseph Yu from MassDOT, who are the producers and facilitators for this hearing. They will go over the basics of how this live virtual design public hearing will be conducted.
Thank you, Annie. My name is Miranda Bersigno, and I'll be one of your MassDOT producers this evening. I'm joined by Joe Yu. And I just want to go over some Zoom basics before we get started. On the bottom left, you'll find your audio controls. Right now, the chat function is disabled, but you can direct any written questions to the Q&A box. You can type questions at any time, and we will answer them towards the end of the meeting during the Q&A session. You may also click to raise your hand during the Q&A session, and I will give you access to unmute your mic since everyone joins this meeting automatically muted. And please note that while Zoom provides automatic closed captioning, they may not be entirely accurate, and we have a stenographer here this evening, courtesy of Advanced Court Reporting. This hearing will be recorded, and there will be a transcript from the stenographer for the entire meeting that will be a matter of public record. MassDOT may choose to retain and distribute this transcript. If you type a question or ask one verbally, know that you will be a part of the record, so please use both functions for business related to this project only. Again, we will open to questions and answers at the end of the presentation, and your feedback is very important to us. We welcome all questions and comments. However, please refrain from any disrespectful comments. A notice on MassDOT's diversity and civil rights policy. All MassDOT activities, including public meetings, are free of discrimination. MassDOT complies with all federal and state civil rights requirements, preventing discrimination based on sex, race, color, ancestry, national origin, including limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or veteran status. We welcome the diversity from across our entire service area, and if you have any questions or concerns, please visit mass.gov/non-discrimination-in-transportation-program to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. I'll now pass it back to Annie to take the presentation.
Thank you, Miranda. I would like to take a moment to introduce the project team who are available this evening, including those you will hear from during this presentation. From MassDOT, again, my name is Annie Audio. I am joined this evening with Dan Fleury from MassDOT's District 4 office, Michael Rudderman from our headquarters right-of-way bureau, Joe Yu and Miranda Roseno, who are producing tonight's meeting. Next, we have our city officials from Revere. Tom Skorowski is Revere's planning director, and Julie DeMauro is Revere's transportation coordinator. Both have been and will be actively involved in the project. And last, from Howard Stein Hudson, we have Valerie Chia, project manager, and Angela Bleeker, traffic engineer. MassDOT retained Howard Stein Hudson to develop the design for this project. And finally, stenography services are being provided by Advanced Court Reporting. I would also like to acknowledge others shown on the slide from the City of Revere, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, MBTA, and the Suffolk Downs Redevelopment Project. All have been engaged to help move this project forward to this evening's hearing. They have assisted with public support and outreach, right-of-way access, project coordination, and overall cooperation on a project that has overlapping interests of multiple parties. At MassDOT, we reach out to the public by multiple means to inform residents and businesses about projects happening in their local area. With that said, tonight's public hearing notice was published in the Daily Item on Tuesday, October 1st and 8th, and in the Revere Journal on Wednesday, October 2nd and 9th, 2024. Meeting notification was posted on MassDOT's and the City of Revere's websites. Advertisements for this hearing were also posted on the official MassDOT X, otherwise known as Twitter account. Flyers were distributed to all abutting businesses and residents within a quarter mile of the project area. The City of Revere also sent notice to various abutters to alert them of this meeting. We appreciate all who are here in attendance this evening, listening to our team talk about proposed safety improvements for pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles on the Beachmont Connector project. Your comments and questions will be welcome at the end of this presentation. Let's now move on to the agenda for tonight's presentation. We will be covering a range of topics for the multimodal connector project. This is a MassDOT-led project that has been in the planning and early design stages for multiple years. We will cover project background, review the project history, and provide an overview of the various alternatives that were considered. We will then talk about the proposed improvements and right-of-way process. We will review the next steps in the project design and development and the construction budget. And finally, we will close with providing our contact information and begin the question and answer portion of this public hearing. Let me now invite Tom Skorowski to provide a high-level introduction to our project.
Thank you, Annie, and good evening, everybody. Tom Skorowski, the Chief of Planning and Community Development for the City of Revere, and really excited to talk with you all about this project, which is, certainly MassDOT-led, but is part of a broader citywide planning effort that's been underway for years now, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So, as the Chief of Planning and Community Development, one of my key roles is to support walkability projects in the city, to make Revere a safer place to walk, bike, and roll for all Revere residents. And one of the reasons for that is through the various planning efforts, and most importantly, our Next Stop Revere Master Plan, we've heard time and time again the top two concerns from residents in the city. One of those is traffic, and the other one is providing safe, walkable, bikeable alternatives for residents in the city. And this project here is really a perfect example of something that marries both of those two things, because when we talk about walkability, we want to provide opportunities for folks that can't afford a car, don't want to drive, or frankly are just tired of the traffic they see on our roadways. And this project does all of those things and more. And we're really excited about this project for a few key reasons. Number one, both through our master planning efforts, but also in the nearly decade of work planning ahead of time for this project, there is a broad base of support for this work. So as you see on the slide here, the Development Advisory Group that started meeting in 2017 for the Suffolk Downs redevelopment project met with city officials, folks from HYM, the developer, to discuss various off-site mitigation efforts that would be needed to make the Suffolk Downs project a success. And immediately, this project, the Beachmont Connector, was centered on as a key investment that would need to be made. And the reasons are pretty simple. We have 10,000 new units of housing being built at Suffolk Downs. We have hundreds of thousands of square feet of commercial space in the new retail district at Beachmont Square. We have millions of square feet of industrial and office space being developed at that site. And we want to provide safe alternatives to driving to and from the beach, to which this project connects. So this, just from a connectivity standpoint, is really a no-brainer and is something that's been planned for almost a decade now. And then the second reason we're really excited about this is the need to build this project into a broader network of roadway improvements that are going to be made in the next decade. And you can see here on the slide a few of those outlined. So most importantly, everything you see covered in purple as it relates to Suffolk Downs, as I mentioned before, not just off-site with a project like the Beachmont Connector, but on-site within the development itself, there are on and off-road accommodations to create safer alternatives to driving. There's going to be a series of improvement projects along Winthrop Avenue and even sooner along Donnelly Square. And so this project is a great connection both to that, but also to the proposed MassDOT Bennington Street project, to the host of investments that DCR has made and will be making on Ocean Avenue and Revere Beach Boulevard in the near future. And really all of this will start to connect into a broader network. And I've heard a lot from residents in the city when we talk about a bike lane being built or a new shared use path being built, and concerns of a bike lane going to nowhere, right? And I think we hear those concerns loud and clear. And I think what we need to do is build a strong network where folks from the western portion of the city can connect to the beach and vice versa. And I think this is a great opportunity to do just that, and connect with our planning efforts, build into a broader network, and ultimately create safer alternatives to driving for folks from this new development and from folks in Beachmont and other parts of the city to enjoy everything that Suffolk Downs will have to offer. So we're really excited about this project, happy to support this and be part of the team, and look forward to answering your questions later on. But I'll pass it on back to Annie now.
Thank you, Tom. So now let's look at the overall project area showed on the slide in the orange shaded area. The project study area includes State Road between the intersection of Donnelly Square, north of the intersections of Winthrop Ave, Bennington Street, State Road, Unity Ave, and the Beachmont MBTA station, up to, but not including, Eliot Circle. The connector project includes intersections where State Road merges onto Revere Beach Parkway and Ocean Avenue, as well as Revere Beach Parkway from west of the Rita Singer Bridge up to Eliot Circle. I will now pass the presentation to Valchia, who will talk about the existing conditions.
Thanks, Annie. Yes, so existing conditions. State Road generally is 2 lanes in each direction that vary in width. As shown in these images, the shoulder widths along State Road are inadequate, and there are sections of the road with uneven pavement and faded pavement markings. Parking is allowed on the east side of the road between Donnelly Square and Eliot Circle, as well as a small segment on the west side of the road leading up to Donnelly Square. But this parking is sometimes undefined and can be a little confusing. The regulatory and posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour in both directions, and then changes to 25 at Atlantic Avenue. Revere Beach Parkway is generally 3 lanes in each direction with a median separation from Winthrop Ave to Ocean Avenue. It similarly has inadequate shoulder widths, but parking is not permitted on either side of the roadway. And then just continuing on to existing conditions, on-street parking and the existing geometry of the roadway can cause poor visibility for vehicles looking to exit onto State Road, northbound from the neighborhood streets. There are also intersections within the project area that are wide and have insufficient signage, making them difficult for pedestrians to be seen as they cross the street. Limited bicycle facilities exist within the project limits, and that creates a gap within the Beachmont connector. So since there are no dedicated bicycle facilities and the on-street parking takes place over shoulders, cyclists that are traveling through this area need to share the road with vehicles. For existing sidewalk conditions, like cyclists, the existing conditions for pedestrians on State Road have a gap in the network just due to the insufficient sidewalk that's out there. Pedestrians currently use sidewalks that are in fair to poor conditions, meaning the concrete or asphalt is cracked and uneven. Sometimes the sidewalk is uprooted by surrounding trees, or in some sections, the sidewalk is too narrow. The pedestrian path along the northbound lanes of State Road lack ADA compliant ramps at Atlantic Avenue and Eliot Circle. On Revere Beach Parkway, pedestrian accommodations are limited to one side of the roadway, and they also lack ADA compliant curb ramps at crosswalks and intersections. And then at Ocean Ave, which has been recently reconstructed near the intersection where State Road, Revere Beach Parkway, and Ocean Ave intersect. Upgrades along Ocean Ave include narrowed lane widths, wide pedestrian sidewalks with benches, and separate bike lanes on each side of the roadway. Suffolk Downs is proposing similar bike and ped improvements, and that's to the southern end of the project limits when that will be constructed. With that, I will pass it back to Annie to talk about project goals.
Thank you, Val. So what do we want to accomplish? The primary goals of this project are to provide a safe path for cyclists and to improve and vehicular safety within the project limits along Circle and Revere. The project need was triggered by the development project team about a connection of a potential Constitution Beach in East Boston and Revere Beach, as well as by the efforts of the city of Revere to install separate the south. Our project, labeled as the Beachmont Connector, is intended to fill in the network gap, to connect the separated bike lanes on Ocean Ave to the north, to potential separated bike lanes on the east side of Bennington East. To meet
Penny, you back?
I'm back.
Okay.
Did you lose? Can you go back 2 slides? Back. Back. Oh, no, stay right there. The pedestrian walkway along the northbound lanes of State Road lacks ADA compliant ramps at Atlantic Ave and Eliot Street. The path is narrow and varies from poor to fair condition in some sections. Facilities exist and on sway shoulder. Cyclists traveling through this area are forced to share the road in an unsafe situation. This condition does not meet the requirements of MassDOT's engineering directive, which states that a separated bicycle facility should be provided for this road due to vehicular volumes greater than 10,000 vehicles per day, multiple lanes of vehicular travel in one direction, and the classification is a corridor with high potential for everyday biking. So how did we get here? Advance. Perfect. In September 2021, MassDOT recognized the need to develop a connector project to join infrastructure projects happening within and at both ends of this project's limits. In January 2022, Howard Stein Hudson was contracted to perform traffic counts, complete an alternatives analysis, develop a conceptual design, and hold lots of meetings with constituent groups as part of developing the Beachmont connector design. Between May and November 2023, project development included advancing the conceptual design to 25%, utility coordination discussions, meeting with the tree warden, conducting site walks to address design specifics such as roadway signage and their ownership, maintaining coordination with DCR. MassDOT then received the 25% highway design submittal. The package was distributed and reviewed by the City of Revere, DCR, MBTA. In June 2024, MassDOT approved Howard Stein Hudson's preliminary design and right-of-way plans. More meetings were then scheduled with the City of Revere in an effort to bring us all together this evening. I will now turn the presentation back over to Val Chia from Howard Stein Hudson, who will provide an overview of the design.
Thanks, Annie. So like Annie mentioned, HSH was asked to perform a study to evaluate a connection from Donnelly Square towards the Ocean Ave intersection through Suffolk Downs. So through that study, 3 alternatives were considered. A two-way separated bike lane along the northbound lanes of State Road, which you can see in this first image. A two-way separated bike lane along the southbound lanes of State Road, which is in the second image, and then a single separated bike lanes in each direction of State Road, which is the third image. As a result of that study, the two-way separated bike lane along the southbound lanes of State Road was chosen as the preferred alternative, since it had the fewest associated challenges and provided the greatest safety benefit by providing a direct route between Revere Beach and Beachmont Station. These alternatives led to our proposed design. So for the next several slides, I'm going to be providing an overview of the design and then kind of describe more in detail the proposed improvements to address the existing conditions that I mentioned earlier. So this graphic is just a plan overview of our entire project limits that shows Donnelly Square on the southern side of our project limit, which is on the left, and then the intersection just before Eliot Circle as the northern side of our project limits on the right. So as you can see, major changes that are going to be included as part of this project is a road diet to really allocate one of the 2 travel lanes in each direction of State Road to provide a 2-way separated bike facility on the southbound side of State Road, and a parking protected single bike lane in the northbound side of State Road, which would ultimately narrow State Road to slow down drivers, give enough space to widen the roadway shoulders, and provide that connection between Beachmont Station and Revere Beach that we had mentioned earlier. Other improvements as part of this project will include reconstructing the sidewalks and pedestrian ramps, repaving and restriping the road, signal timing updates and signal equipment updates, updated street lighting, preservation of existing trees, and planting opportunities for proposed landscaped areas. Additionally, a shared use path is proposed towards that northern end of the project limits to provide pedestrians and cyclists an east-west connection to access both sides of State Road, as well as the facilities on Ocean Ave. On Revere Beach Parkway, we are proposing pavement markings to reduce the lanes and narrow them as they approach the intersection. Getting into more detail for the roadway improvements. So specific improvements along State Road northbound. So from the left to right direction on like the southern part of the plan, include narrowing the roadway from 2 lanes to 1. Parking along the northbound side of State Road will be retained and formalized through pavement markings and signage, and provide protection for the proposed bicycle lane, which would also travel northbound. At the beginning and ends of the parking lane, where they intersect side streets such as Endicott Ave and Dolphin Ave, landscaped islands will be provided at the corners to allow sufficient sight lines to view oncoming vehicles on State Road from the side streets. The specific improvements along State Road southbound include maintaining 2 11-foot travel lanes from Donnelly Square as they approach the Rita Singer Bridge to maintain traffic operations, and then narrowing the roadway north of the Rita Singer Bridge from 2 lanes to 1 as it approaches Ocean Ave. Narrowing the cross-section will encourage drivers to operate at lower speeds. Currently, and I mentioned this earlier, currently the regulatory and posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour north of Atlantic Avenue, but the proposed design aims to lower speeds down to 25 miles per hour, which will be supported by this new geometry. New pavement markings will better define lane assignments to prevent weaving of vehicles between lanes and to better mark turning lanes. So I know there's a lot of sections in this project. What does that look like in a cross-sectional view? So to make it a bit more digestible, I'm going to go through the quarter by section. So on the top left is what the existing cross-section is. On the bottom is what's being proposed, and then highlighted in yellow on the right is the section of the project that cross-section is referring to. So right now we're looking at the portion of State Road before they split into their northbound and southbound directions. In the northbound direction, vehicles and cyclists would share the road adjacent to a parking lane up to Atlantic Ave, where after that, a 5-foot bike lane would open up, which is protected by an 8-foot parking lane and a 3-foot painted buffer that has flex posts within it, along a reconstructed sidewalk that would maintain its existing width, and in some areas widen out to maintain the geometry of the road diet. In the southbound direction, 2 11-foot travel lanes will be maintained to accommodate queues from the Donnelly Square intersection. Adjacent to the travel lanes will be a 9-foot wide two-way bike path that is separate from the reconstructed sidewalk. This bike path will be at the same grade as the roadway and be separated from the travel lanes by a 3-foot raised concrete buffer with flex posts as well as a 2-foot roadway shoulder. As State Road splits, I will continue on to the State Road northbound section after the split, as you can see in the highlighted portion in yellow. So the road diet will continue by proposing the reduction of 2 lanes to 1 in order to maintain 1 11-foot travel lane, an 8-foot parking lane, 3-foot painted buffer with flex posts, and a 5-foot bike lane next to a sidewalk that will also be reconstructed. And State Road southbound, it'll have similar conditions in that the 2 travel lanes will be reduced to 1 after passing through the Rita Singer Bridge, which spans over Revere Beach Parkway. This section will continue the 2-way separated bike facility until it approaches the intersection at Ocean Ave, the intersection of Ocean Ave, Revere Beach Parkway, and State Road. At this intersection, the 2-way separated bike facility ends, and then cyclists can connect to the Ocean Ave bike facilities or enter a shared use path to access the neighborhoods along State Road northbound. So that was State Road. Let's talk about Revere Beach Parkway. So along Revere Beach Parkway, the travel lanes will reduce approaching and departing the State Road and Ocean Ave intersection from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. The reduction in lanes will encourage lower driving speeds as they approach the intersection. And an extended median will be provided between where Revere Beach Parkway and State Road meet to eliminate vehicle weaving and channel drivers into the correct lane as they either depart to Ocean Ave or continue on to State Road to enter Eliot Circle. As drivers depart Eliot Circle, 2 left turn lanes will be provided to enter Revere Beach Parkway, and 1 through right turn lane will be provided to either enter State Road southbound or turn right onto Ocean Ave. The proposed design of this section of Revere Beach Parkway will provide defined lane assignments to prevent weaving maneuvers and provide clarity for drivers. So here is the existing cross-section on Revere Beach Parkway for the yellow highlighted section that you see on the right. Currently, Revere Beach Parkway provides 3 lanes in each direction, which I mentioned would be narrowed to 2 lanes in each direction using pavement markings, creating 9 to 13-foot gored areas along the outside of the lanes. The median in the middle will be maintained, and then repaving will be proposed in this segment as well. Looking closer at the intersection of State Road, Revere Beach Parkway, and Ocean Avenue, I talked about a new shared use path earlier that would give pedestrians and cyclists access to both sides of State Road. This shared use path is proposed to be 10 feet wide and offset from the curb line so you aren't directly adjacent to traffic. New pedestrian ramps, crossings, and pedestrian signals will be provided at all new crosswalk locations throughout the shared use path connection. And the existing signal equipment at this intersection will be upgraded to the latest standard with preemption detection for emergency vehicles. Though we are realigning the curb at this intersection to support the updated lane assignments, all trees within the medians you see here will be retained and protected. So next, we'll talk about cyclist and pedestrian impacts, which I'll just further detail kind of what these facilities I mentioned look like. Earlier I mentioned that in the southbound direction of State Road, cyclists will be provided a 9-foot wide two-way bicycle path at roadway grade. So here's an example of what that looks like. The bike path will be separated from the travelway by a 3-foot raised concrete buffer and flex posts. And this facility will provide a connection to bike networks proposed at Donnelly Square and Bennington Street, as well as the bike facilities that exist on Ocean Ave today. Bicyclists traveling northbound on State Road will be provided a 5-foot one-way bicycle lane buffered from the travelway by 8-foot parking and a 3-foot striped buffer, which will also contain flex posts, which you can see in these photos. At side streets such as Endicott Ave and Dolphin Ave, landscape buffer strips will be provided between the one-way bicycle lane and the travel lane to provide a more protected corner and better sight lines as vehicles exit out of the side streets onto State Road or turn into the side streets from State Road. This one-way bicycle lane will allow cyclists access to the neighborhoods on the east side of State Road. And then to summarize pedestrian improvements, a new 10-foot shared use path will be provided at the State Road, Revere Beach Parkway, and Ocean Ave intersection to connect both cyclists and pedestrians to access both sides of State Road. Both sides of the existing sidewalks along State Road will be reconstructed, where pedestrians will be provided with concrete sidewalks that are at least 5 feet wide and have ADA compliant ramps to meet requirements for accessibility. I believe now I'm going to pass the mic to Mike Ruderman, who is going to talk to you about right-of-way.
Just a moment, I'll get my video going. Sorry, that doesn't seem to be working right now. Oh, you can see me. Great, thank you. My name is Michael Ruderman. I'm here representing MassDOT's right-of-way section tonight. Right-of-way is the term we use for the area, the land, or the interests in the land that the state has or needs for a project. Where we need additional space to do work, the right-of-way section is charged with acquiring that. Now, that could be a combination of takings and fee, which are full ownership. It could be an easement, a permanent easement, or a temporary easement. Those are all dictated by the project requirements. Most importantly, if your property is going to be involved in a right-of-way taking, someone will reach out to you individually, whether it's from the MassDOT Right-of-Way Bureau, our consultants, agents of the city of Revere. If your property is going to be involved in any kind of taking, we will find you and we'll make an appointment with you and we'll explain all of the protections that are afforded to property owners in these circumstances. They come from federal and state laws. In state laws, it's primarily Mass General Laws, Chapter 79. Federal laws, Title III, the Real Property Acts of 1970. You don't have to remember those details, but we will reach out to you and give you the opportunity to look at all of our plans and become fully acquainted with our procedures, from identifying what we need to how it's going to be appraised, how the award of damages will be calculated, and finally, what your options are if you are not satisfied with what we present as the award of damages for the impacts on your property. Lastly, at this point in time, we have not finished our final right-of-way plans. This is an ongoing project in development. That's why it was stated at the beginning of the project tonight. we are at the 25% level. As we get closer to 75%, that's when the right-of-way plans get locked down. That's when we will begin making our contacts with you, the members of the public. I'll stay on for the rest of the hearing tonight in case there are any questions in general regarding right-of-way procedures when we get to the end of the meeting. And with that, I will turn it back over to the presenters.
Thank you, Mike. So what are the environmental, cultural resource, and community impacts? The project has complied with all environmental reviews and necessary permitting. In particular, trees were highlighted as an important consideration during the preparation of the 25% design plans. On this project, trees fall into the jurisdictions of the City of Revere, MassDOT, and DCR. Thus, tree ownership was carefully reviewed and addressed accordingly. For our proposed design, some trees along the corridor will need to be protected and or trimmed during construction. No trees are scheduled for removal. Work within DCR jurisdiction will require a construction access permit. I will now pass this over to Dan Fleury.
Good evening. My name is Dan Fleury. I'm here to talk to you about some important construction phases for this project. After the completion of the design plans and contract is awarded, the construction of the project will be administered by MassDOT District 4 Construction Division. There will be a MassDOT resident engineer assigned to the project who will be on site doing construction activities. All construction operations will be coordinated with the City of Revere. MassDOT's policy is to minimize traffic impacts during school hours and to make sure that access will be maintained to all abutters throughout construction activities, with short duration closure for driveway construction. Throughout the duration of the project, MassDOT will ensure that pedestrian and cyclist access is maintained. Variable message boards will be used to provide real-time information to drivers about traffic conditions, constructions, and other roadway-related information. Now, let's talk about funding of this project. The project is 100% funded. The federal share is 80% of the cost, while the remaining 20% share will be covered by the state. The estimated construction cost of the project is $7.7 million. The cost does not include any right-of-way acquisition. Construction funding will be provided through state funds received from the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality, known as CMAQ, a CMAQ improvement program. A flexible funding source to state and local. CMAQ is a flexible funding source to state and local government for transportation projects to help meet the requirements of the Clean Air Act. This project is currently programmed for the 2026 Transportation Information Improvement Program funding year. I will now turn back over to Annie for next steps.
So let's talk about next steps. After this design public hearing concludes, there will be an opportunity for the public to provide comments. Once all comments are received, they are reviewed and responses to comments are generated. The design will then be advanced to the next phase, known as 75% design. The 75% design package will be prepared by Howard Stein Hudson and submitted to MassDOT for review and comment, who will also distribute the package to the City of Revere, DCR, and select others. Comments will be compiled, reviewed, and addressed before the project advances to the 100% design stage. Once again, during this last review process, MassDOT will make comments, compile comments from others, and work with the designer to complete the final package. The final phase of design is known as Plans, Specifications, and Estimate, or PS&E. At this time, the design process is complete and the contractor bid package is prepared. Right-of-way efforts will proceed concurrently with the development of the 75% and 100% design. After the design is complete and the needed rights-of-way have been secured, the project can be advertised for construction. We anticipate that project advertisement will occur in 2027. Actual construction of the project would occur after project advertisement, bidder selection, and contract award. If advertisement is before June of 2027, construction could start about 6 months later. MassDOT will be administering the construction of the project. So how will we keep you informed? Next slide. Your feedback is very important to the success of this project. In addition to this hearing, we encourage you to reach out to us with written comments. Emailing us at the address below, shown on the screen, is preferred. We encourage you to do this within 10 business days of this presentation. Please be sure to include the project number 612523 in the subject line of your email. Your comments will be included in the official hearing transcript and incorporated into the design where feasible. The design public hearing packet with information from tonight's meeting will be made available on MassDOT's website following tonight's meeting. Next slide. This completes the technical presentation. At this time, I'm going to hand over the presentation to Joe and Miranda, who will provide details on how you can present your questions and comments during this period. But before we open the session up to the public, we want to invite public officials to speak. So if at this time you could raise your hand, that our producers can call on you and then unmute your microphone. Please begin by stating your name and your affiliation when we call you.
Right. Thanks, Annie. Before I call anyone, I'll just quickly go over these Zoom instructions. You can raise your hand on the reactions button that should be at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Again, you can also use the Q&A function to type in a question if you don't want to raise your hand or are unable to. Please only share one question or comment at a time and try and keep your comment or question to 2 minutes so we can allow others to participate. And if you are dialing in by phone, you can dial *9 and then we will call out the last 4 digits of your phone number and unmute you when it is your turn. But I see our first hand up, Joanne McKenna.
Hi, my name is Joanne McKenna. I'm the Ward 1 counselor of this area. And my concerns are, I have a couple of concerns, but I'm going to just talk about my important concern. Parking spaces for the stores that are located in Donnelly Square. I know we walked this and we talked about it, but we didn't talk about how many spaces were going to be lost for these stores. So is that something that you could talk about tonight?
I can take that question. So Donnelly Square is doing their intersection design, which has already taken out, I believe, 3 spaces. We're connecting into that design. But for the area that you're talking about, I believe we retained most of those spaces except for one. And Angela, if you are on this call, can you confirm that?
I believe that's right, Val. I think that we're providing 4 30-minute parking spaces in that area for unloading, loading operations.
Okay. Am I still on, Mike? I have another question. Donnelly Square is Beachmont Square is divided into 3 sections. It's a city. We have city sidewalks and streets. We have MassDOT, and we have DCR. We also have Mass MBTA. I'm wondering, are you going to fix all the sidewalks, even if they're MBTA owned? Are you just because on across the street from the MBT station, if you go to I think it's the northbound, as you go into the beach, I don't know if it's northbound or southbound, but those sidewalks are horrendous across the street from the stores. So are those going to be fixed also? Are you going to fix sidewalks?
Yes, so those sidewalks along State Road will be fixed, and they will be tying into the reconstructed sidewalks that Donnelly Square is doing as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McKenna. And do we have any more raised hands or folks that would like to ask a question? Otherwise, I'll go ahead and read out one of our first, or I'll actually pass it over to Joe, who will read out our written questions.
Thank you, Miranda. We have a written question from John Lopes. John asks, what kind of study was done here? Because this community is unlike Somerville and Cambridge. Bikes are not used, like in these towns. That one lane will cause so much traffic going south on State Road. I believe the study was referring to Tom's statement in the beginning of the presentation.
Yeah, so I can. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Angela.
I was gonna say, I believe, yeah, that was referring to the study that was done as part of the Suffolk Downs work, and that didn't include forecasting out what future bicycle volumes would be. But we do believe that this provides a connection to the existing facilities that we have on Ocean Ave, and then at Donnelly Square where they will be proposed. So it's more of providing a connection for future bike use and anticipating what those volumes can be in the future. As far as a traffic study that was done, as part of the design, we do have to do a traffic study. It takes, existing counted volumes that are out there today. We forecast those to a future year, forecasting out 10 years. And then we have to look at, the future build operations. Where we're narrowing down on State Road, it's going to be one lane until after the bridge at approximately Endicott, and then it'll open up to 2 lanes on State Road as it approaches Donnelly Square, and that is to facilitate the queues and operations that we anticipate for the future based on that traffic study that was completed. So it should be able to facilitate those. Hope that answers the question.
Looks like John is actually raising his hand. we'll go ahead and ask you to unmute.
I got a question now. Heading south again on State Road, heading towards the Beachmont station, where there's parking right now on the right-hand side. Just before you hit the lights to take a right on Winthrop Ave, is that still going to be parking there, or is that going to be removed?
That parking is going to be removed.
Oh, well, that's good news. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John, for that question.
Yeah.
We have another written question, this one from an anonymous attendee. Is there any specific reason why the separated bike lanes is lowered from the sidewalk height instead of in flush, similar to how Ocean Ave bike facilities exist?
Yeah, it's mostly due to grading and getting that portion of the bike facilities to be compliant. The ADA guidelines require us to have certain percentage slopes for both sidewalk and the bike lanes. And, it causes complications in drainage issues too. So keeping the bike lane at the roadway grade helps us to kind of alleviate some of those issues that we would find in grading and drainage.
Thank you. So I'm not seeing any more written questions or we got one more from John.
One more question. That same lane that you're removing, that parking lane that's there now, heading to Beachmont train station, is that right lane going to be a dedicated right-hand turn lane? Because what you said, it converts back into two lanes after the bridge. Now, that right lane, is that going to be a dedicated right turn lane, or is it going to be a straight in the right?
It'll be through right.
A dedicated right turn lane?
No, it'll be a through lane and a right lane.
A through lane, okay. Because I know that kind of blocks down traffic in the morning. I'm on that road every day, and you would like to make a right turn, but you can't because the light is red. So the person in front of you going straight, you have to wait until the light turns green for everybody to go before you make that right turn, which bogs down traffic. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, unfortunately, the through volumes there, the people that are going straight southbound are also very high. So it requires us to have, two lanes for them to also access. So that's why it has to be shared with the right turn lane. But right. I understand your concern.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, I see some more raised hands, but I think we'll go to Councilor McKenna and then we'll go to the next written question.
I'm sorry. Thank you for the leeway. I just want to know, I don't want to be a naysayer, but what if this doesn't work? What happens? I know we're running into a lot of traffic now. And I was just wondering, what if it doesn't work? Is there a course of action that you could go back to what it was or not? Is there a trial period to see if it does work? Those are the questions that I'd like to know.
I would invite Tom to kind of chime in on this. I think from a technical standpoint, with the bike lanes going northbound being just painted, I mean, if that was something that was desired to be removed, it's just a matter of getting rid of the pavement markings and the flex posts. Okay. I guess it's a little bit more complicated on the other side where the bi-directional bike lane is, but I mean, again, that bike lane is proposed to be at roadway grade. So, I mean, you could just eliminate the buffer that's being proposed there, and leave it at that. But the main goal of this project was to provide that connection, because Ocean Ave has those bike facilities that now really end at nowhere, and Donnelly Square will be installed in the next couple of years or so, providing the same bike facilities. So there is really a network gap where the Beachmont connector is, and hopefully this connection will encourage people who are using the existing facilities to continue using it once this network is complete.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I mean, I know from MassDOT's point of view, we do try to do some of these on a case-by-case basis, but we do them sparingly, because temporary situations don't necessarily match what future conditions could be. So, but we appreciate the comment. So we still have a written comment, and then we have a hand up.
Sure. Joe, do you want to go with written?
Yes, Miranda. Thanks, Annie. We have a question from a walk, bike, and roll group member asking, I'm just wondering as to how effective this will be in the winter for it to be safe still.
Yeah, so because the bicycle facilities are separated, the two-way bike lane, that's going to be separated by like a physical concrete median that has flex posts in it. So there are vertical elements to, warn, like a snowplow, for example, that something is there so they won't hit it. And then obviously won't hit, the cyclists that are using the lane. And then on the other side, where cyclists are using the northbound direction, where it is just pavement markings that are marking things out, they will be protected by parked vehicles, as well as flex posts that will also be a vertical indication that, something is there.
All right. Now, we've got a raise hand from David Gregory.
Hi, you're hearing me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm David Gregory. I'm a Beachmont resident, and I'm been following this this project with interest. The road space is obviously at a premium, and there's a lot of demand for it. So I congratulate you for finding a way to provide a great deal for pedestrians, a great deal for cyclists, improve things for pedestrians, really without taking away much of value from the motorists. The lanes that we're losing are mostly barely used at best, and often, frankly, just confusing. So I don't see a challenge in losing them. My suggestion is, have you or would you consider putting in a crosswalk on State Road outside the old priest house, which in your terms is at the intersection with Endicott on the south side of the intersection with Endicott. There's often people trying to cross there currently, obviously with 5 lanes that they're making their way across in the morning rush. It's a little disturbing to see. So a crosswalk there might be valuable.
Yeah. While we were looking at where to put that shared use path, which is towards the northern end where Eliot Circle is. We did look at what it would look like if there was a crossing there in front of the church. But I think there were just a couple of, conditions that I think would make that a little less safe. And I saw Angela put her camera on. I think she might be able to explain it to you better because it has a lot to do with traffic operations and yeah, I'll just let Angela speak on that.
Yeah, sure. I can take that. So we did look at a crossing location, on State Road, something in between the two intersections that would be a little bit more accessible for people to cross. We first looked at, if we could signalize the Endicott Ave intersection, but that intersection doesn't meet a signal warrant. So that's not, something that was available to us. And then we also looked at if there was other types of, countermeasures that would help with safety, help with crossings at this location. But ultimately, we didn't feel that what we would be able to provide here would be adequate for safety, especially where you have State Road southbound opening up from 1 lane to 2 lanes, and then also having, conflicting movements from the Endicott Ave intersection. So it was tough to try to find a location and then also be able to provide any sort of countermeasures, especially like you said, where there's just a lot already going on with the facilities here. It would be difficult to be able to provide the ramps and the crossing location. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thanks for at least considering it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I'm not seeing any more hands raised or anything in the Q&A box.
Okay, then. Well, I want to thank everyone for your interest and your participation. As a reminder, the handout for this project will be posted on the MassDOT and the City of Revere's websites and summarizes the information we've presented here tonight. This handout also contains a form that you can complete and send back to us if you have any additional questions or comments that were not addressed this evening. Thank you again for attending, and good night. The time is 7:08 p.m. This hearing is officially closed.